So when we are talking about this thing, so for the security professional, as I was saying, that cloud computing, it impacts 4 areas of governance and risk management, and those are our primary administrative concerns that are in here. And if we are talking about them, what are they? What those are going to be? Those are going to be your governance, enterprise risk management, information risk management, and information security. So if you will be asking me what is going to be the governance, I will say governance is going to include something like policy, process, and internal control, and how they come together, and you know, their policy, process, and internal controls that comprise that how any organization is going to run. Everything from the structure and policy to the leadership and other mechanism for the management. That is the governance, right? So right now we are just talking about the one-liner. So we'll be just discussing these things. And then there is going to be the ERM, okay, which will be including that overall risk that we are talking about, right? Right. But AK in the AK, I think they are more focused on the auditing part. Because if I remember, somewhere in the CCSK, I think there was one line that what you are using in the on-premise, that is going to be almost same as in the your IAS, right? So the physical infrastructure is lying with the your cloud service provider most of the time. Right. So then, yes. So we were talking about the ERM. So this will be overall risk for the organization aligned to the your organization's governance and the risk tolerance, and it will be including all area of the risk, not only with the technology, but overall we'll be talking about over here. Then there is going to be your information risk management, which is going to cover your what? Managing the risk to the information, including your information technology, right? And we are facing the all kind of a risk over here. Means your finance to physical, and information is the only one of the multiple asset on organization needs to be managed, right? So when we are talking about the information risk, it is bringing that information factor with it. Now, information security is going to be that tool and practices that is going to manage risk to information. So information security isn't all, isn't the be all and end all of managing information risks like policies, contract, insurance, and other mechanisms. Also, they are going to play a role, including the physical security for a non-digital information. So that is going to be the whole part over this information security. So if I remember it correctly, there was one chart you are talking about the CCAK. I don't know about the AK because I haven't gone through it yet. So SK I have gone through. So there was this kind of a chart like governance, and from there only, these concepts start becoming clear. Then there was something like the ERM is one of the part, and then we go here. Then this was something like information risk management was this one, and then its direct implication was the information security, right? Although the chart was having some other parts as well, like this one. ERM was having something like this. So now when we are talking about this thing, so this is the whole hierarchical path that is going on. I think you will be remembering the same from there as well, that it is talking about those kind of a scenario. Now, when we are talking about, let's just jump on to the one by one about the policy. I think now, if you have done the CCSK and AK, I think this is going to be just kind of a revision for you, because that would be the label that what we are going to discuss over here. So there is going to be the first of all we will be talking about the cloud governance. So usually, I had this in one of the training session from the train the trainer session from the Isaka. So I think that was from the CSA. So I was there, and one of the trainer, they were presenting, and they said that one line that okay, I'll be coming to that general line. So when we talk about the cloud governance, it actually start with the establishing the decision makers and the separation between your stakeholders, your shareholders, and the senior management. So it is related to the accountability for those decisions. And something that I remember from that particular session is that there was one line that, I think on the very first day as well, I was talking about the same line in this course, that if you are the organization, whatever habits that you have in a cloud, they are just going to go, in your on premise, in your day-to-day organization life. Whatever habits you have, those are just going to be amplified in the cloud itself. So if always talk about this thing. If you are a disciplined organization, okay, so if you are a disciplined organization, you will be benefiting from the cloud very quickly. And if you are a poorly disciplined outside the cloud, you are just going to increase your undisciplined velocity in the cloud itself. And that is something that I have find it true, because when I also joined in the very first time when I started doing the project, so at that time I was not I think back in 2016 I was not also that much familiar with the cloud. But when I start becoming familiar with the cloud, I have and I remember my first project. So I remember that there was the complete chaos. So around 2018 I start seeing these things more clearly, that yes, that if someone is kind of, we can say, the lazy ones, right? If we are the someone who is kind of feeling like we generally just keep creating the VM, not keeping the track of them, and poorly manage our machines in the on-premise as well. So you will keep creating the VM. Let's say someone want to test, someone created a VM, just keeps it running, and then you just being charge a very high amount of money for the cloud use. So those kind of the indisciplinary will be only improve on the cloud itself. Now, as I was talking about that, there is going to be the three things in the cloud governance. One is going to be the policy, process, and then the internal control. So policy is the one of the most important element of the cloud governance. So here is where any organization, they are going to set up the expectation of course of practice and behavior, what they are going to follow on the day-to-day operation. So they can specify in very clear, brief, and high level language that what are the things that should be followed over here. Then they can specify those kind of a thing, and they should be lawful. These things should be enforceable, brief, and in the very high level language, so that everyone can understand this thing clearly. Then there will be the processes, and anywhere you will read, one thing will be the I would say the conclusion of everything in this one, that processes, what process is like the lifeblood. Okay, this is the lifeblood of the your cloud governance itself. Now these are the repeatable way in which things are going to be accomplished, that are very important to success of my organizational mandates. So these are the repeatable ways that this thing should be done like this, that if you are doing the testing, you should be creating a VM like this, and then just go ahead and destroy them when testing is done. And a whole policy, you should be making a chart, keep the track of the things, like people start using the scrum for keeping the track, or the dev boards, those kind of development boards. So Kanban boards. So those kind of things will be always help to for the development team I'm talking about, just keep track of what they are doing. Because what I have seen, two places in the cloud which is costing us very much, that is the development and the testing. So there, the habit that I have seen, even though people are just going and merging this with the cloud, so these teams, they just keep deploying the resources, right? And multiple time, many of them, because they are just using the I would say a template, right? And if they required a VM, sometime by mistake, they change the number of VM from 2 to 3, or they deploy the something like the auto scale image. So what is happening, they just start testing them with the your batch processes, and multiple sources goes. But what they do forgot, that in the auto scale one, they have to control things with the something like putting the criteria, right? Like the criteria we put in the load balancer or anywhere, that if my traffic goes 75% and beyond, that if you are in the active passive standby mode, standby and active mode, so the standby load balancer should be activated. And here they are just doing the batch testing and stress testing, and during that They are producing this load, and there are the machine, but they forgot that if my workload is being normal to the 25%, I don't need the other machine to be deployed, and I'm just paying for them while I don't have any use of them. So this is the one place personally that I have seen things, although I started with somewhere with the process, but people just, there's a way of doing things. And that's why I was talking about that when first time I got the 2016 one. So actually this was a pen testing project that I got. But I find that there is happening something that we call the VM sprawl. Means they have created too many VMs that they don't even have the resource capability to handle, and many of them were lying there having the open port connected to internet, and many of them were already being compromised by the multiple other your users, right? Because no one was paying attention to them and they were having the public connection directly over there. So these kind of a thing, they do happen sometimes. So this is my personal experience. So as I was starting, so these processes are the repeatable way in which things are accomplished, and that is going to be very important in the any organization success, and even downfall as well if no one is following those processes. And this is my personal experience. Right. Then the third part is going to be this internal control. So it comes into the different numbers and flavors, right? The different number of flavors. So it could be your administrative control that you want to put. It could be your physical control, and obviously in the cloud you have the set of the different technical controls that you want to put over there. So you have the different option from your management portal itself on the terms of the network, how the network should be managed, how network devices, applications should be managed. All these things are going to be the lot of choices you will be having. How encryption should be done? Do you want a hybrid or only the cloud solution? This kind of things will be there. Where should be the keys stored and different controls that you want to place over there, right? So there is going to be the your cloud governance. Then there is ERM, enterprise risk management. So which is more of the your holistic, when I'm talking about this, ERM over here. So first is the your determination of the your organization risk. So okay, first of all, if I will talk about this whole thing, so enterprise risk management, I feel like to put it something like the holistic. It is your holistic organization risk. So when we are talking about the ERM, it is the holistic management of overall risk of the organization as it align to the your organization's risk tolerance. So what you have to do, risk, you have to determine the risk tolerance capacity of the organization. So risk tolerance which will be suffice to say now that these are the acceptable risks that the organization is willing to take. Okay, and it is actually beyond the technology that what we would consider ERM. This is overall behavior of the organization, the services that organization consume, and the responsibility of the organization's client. Every those things will be the part of the your ERM over here. Then third thing that what we were more concerned here is going to be the information risk management. So information risk management, it has the different forms. It could include what? It could include your paper-based information, technology-based information, or even service-based information here as well. Now, it also includes the your data, and not only data, also the data and metadata both. So yes, I think on this Sunday I was discussing something with my friend who is working in the machine learning, right? And we were talking about the data and the profiles over there. And what we come across is, when we are talking about the data and metadata, why I'm talking about this thing. So when we are, sometime metadata or some other data, which maybe look like, very hard to get. So what some of the data will be very hard to get, and those are something like confidential data or something, and those kind of data will be everyone, that attacker or even your competitor, they want to get their hands on. Now, when we talk about the data, there are going to be the raw zero and ones, even telemetry data, and they could refer to the valuable insight for the your organization when you compare them through the system like the machine. When you just compose them through your art machine learning interface. So we were discussing the same thing, that okay, people think they some random data or metadata in the photos that they have, it is not making sense, or if they will be disposing those kind of a thing, or simply the data that is being transferred over the network, and there are bits of 0 1, not a complete data. But when you pass that small data through a machine learning, you would be able to put a profile onto a user. Okay, that what is users like, dislike, those kind of a thing. So you have to think about all the things, you have to include about the small data, bit metadata regarding that, you have to think about them and protect them as well. Then there is going to be the intellectual property and the loss protection. So it is also the part of the information risk management, intellectual property. The different protection that would be include could be your patents. There could be your patents and your copyrights and your trademarks, right? These kind of and even the trade secret, these kind of things are going to be in there. Then we have the information security. So this is here. This is directly related to your information risk management, or we can say response, tied to the your risk management. Okay, it is a response to how you will mitigate those risks that what we have just discussed, that hierarchy that you were talking about. So how we are going to mitigate those risks? So there are going to be an assortment of the controls over here, including the array of the controls. So it could be your contract, it could be physical, logical, or any administrative controls that you want to put over there. Yes, you think of you could think of it as being in a timeline related to a risk. The threat of an actual instant, then preventing an instant, and then detecting an instance, you prevent it, then you detect it. So there is threat was of any actual event, you prevent it, you detect it, then correcting the incident, right? Then recovering from the one, and then using the compensating control, right? So we are talking about the compensating. So they should be, there is always a criteria that they should be at least providing you the security at the same level of your primary defense or better than that, right? That is also the one part that we want to include over there. Now, when we are talking about the governance framework, there are already some of them which are in the picture right now, and which we will be talking about going ahead, some of the governance framework itself.